Late summer, 376 AD, the Danube River, near Durostorum, modern Silistra, Bulgaria. Just after dawn, the mist rises off the Danube like breath from a living thing. On the northern bank, they come through the fog, thousands of them. Families first, women carrying children on their shoulders, men leading oxen too thin to pull carts, the elderly stumbling over roots they cannot see. Their eyes do not look at the river. They look behind them. Behind them, the smoke of their burning villages still rises. Behind them, something worse than Rome has ever faced. The Huns. None of these refugees has seen a Hun up close and lived to describe it. But they've seen what's left behind. Corpses nailed to their own doors. Children scattered like autumn leaves. The earth itself churned to mud by hooves that seem to come from nowhere and return to nowhere. The Goths have walked for weeks. Some have walked since spring. Their feet are wrapped in rags soaked through with blood. Their wagons, those still, rolling, creak under the weight of grandparents too weak to walk, tools too precious to abandon, and gods carved from wood that the Romans will never understand. On the southern bank, Roman watchtowers blink against the rising sun. Inside one, a young auxiliary soldier from Gaul squints through the mist. He's been stationed here 8 months. He's seen small groups before, a dozen, maybe 50, begging to cross. But this, he reaches for the horn at his belt. His hand trembles. He's not sure if it's fear or cold. What are you waiting for? His centurion snaps from behind him. The man's name is Lupicinus. No, that's the commander at Adrianople. This centurion is just a cog, a 30-year veteran with scarred knuckles and no illusions. He shoves the young soldier aside and looks for himself. The mist is burning off now. The scale of it hits him like a pilum to the chest. They stretch along the riverbank as far as he can see north and south. Not hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, families, warriors, mixed among them. Can't have warriors without weapons, can he? But mostly families. The old centurion has fought Germans before. He's seen how they move when they're coming to kill you. This isn't that. These people are desperate. They're begging, the young soldier whispers. And they are. On the northern bank, some have fallen to their knees. Priests, their own kind, Arian Christians. Not that the soldier knows the difference. Lift wooden crosses toward the Roman side. Children cry. A woman has collapsed at the water's edge and doesn't get up. The centurion makes a decision he has no authority to make. Lower the boats. But authority travels slower than desperation. By midday, messengers are riding hard along the Via Munita toward Adrianople, where Count Lupicinus commands the frontier forces. By evening, the first boats are crossing. Roman naval auxiliaries, their oars dipping in rhythm, ferry Goths across in groups of 50. The process is slow, too slow. On the northern bank, tempers fray. A fight breaks out over who boards next. A man is stabbed, not killed, but bleeding, and Roman soldiers wade in with shield bosses to restore order. The refugees keep coming. By nightfall, the southern bank has become a city of tents that aren't tents, just blankets stretched over sticks. Wagons turned sideways for windbreaks. Children sleeping in the open because there's no room inside. A Roman quartermaster moves among them with wax tablets, counting. He's been doing this for 20 years. He's never counted this many. His stylus scratches. Families, warriors, livestock, weapons. The weapons worry him. Every male over 15 seems to carry something. An axe, a spear, a long knife. Not an army's worth of equipment, but enough. He looks up from his tablet. A Gothic woman stands before him, holding out a baby. The baby is dead. Has been for days by the look. She's not crying. She's just holding it out, like he can fix it. He doesn't know what to write for that. Behind him, further inland, the frontier has just changed forever. Rome invited these people in. Rome will feed them, settle them, make them farmers, taxpayers, soldiers. That's the plan. But the quartermaster has been doing this long enough to know. Plans survive until they meet people. And these people have nothing left to lose. Autumn 376 AD. Adrianople, Roman province of Moesia. The Gothic chieftain. Fritigern stands in the mud outside the walls of Adrianople and tries to remember what dignity feels like. Behind him, 25,000 of his people, his responsibility, his burden, spread across the plain in a sprawl of makeshift shelters and dying fires. They've been here 3 weeks. 3 weeks since the Romans ferried them across the Danube with promises. 3 weeks of eating whatever can be foraged, slaughtered, or stolen from farms already picked clean by previous waves of refugees. 3 weeks of watching Roman soldiers eat hot food on the walls while his people chew boiled leather. Inside the city, Count Lupicinus is throwing a banquet. Fritigern knows this because he can smell the roasted meat when the wind shifts. He's been invited, along with the other Gothic leaders. An honor, they say, a gesture of goodwill. His son translates the Roman officer's words with a face that shows exactly what he thinks of Roman goodwill. They want us inside the walls. Just the leaders. For negotiations. Fritigern looks at the walls, then at his people, then back at the walls. Negotiations, he repeats. The word tastes like ash. The banquet hall stinks of luxury. Oil lamps smoke against frescoed walls. Silver platters hold wild boar, roasted fowl, bread so white it looks like snow. Roman officers recline on couches, their purple-bordered togas, ridiculous in Fritigern's eyes, men dressed like women, pretending to be civilized while children die in the mud outside their walls. Lupicinus raises a golden cup. To our new allies, he announces. The defense of Rome is strengthened today. The Romans drink. The Gothic leaders do not. They've learned not to trust Roman wine. Fritigern's son leans close. Father, the market. Earlier that day, Fritigern had sent warriors into the city with gold, all they had left, to buy food. What they found wasn't a market. It was a slaughterhouse with prices. One dog, one, for the price of a slave. A basket of grain cost enough to feed a family for a month in peacetime. The Roman merchants laughed at them, told them to go back to their huts and wait for proper rations. The rations haven't come. Lupicinus is speaking again. Something about settlement lands. Something about military service. The words wash over Fritigern like river water. He's watching the Roman commander's hands. Soft hands, hands that have never held a dying child. You will disarm your warriors, of course. Lupicinus says, casual, like it's nothing. Standard procedure. We'll hold the weapons until lands are assigned. Fritigern's son goes rigid beside him. Behind them, other Gothic leaders shift on their couches. The room suddenly feels smaller. Disarm, while Romans control the food. While Romans control the walls. While Roman merchants charge slave price for dog meat. Fritigern smiles. It's not a pleasant smile. We will discuss this tomorrow, he says. When our people have eaten. Lupicinus waves a hand, generous, dismissive. Of course, enjoy the feast. Outside the walls, a Roman soldier guards the gate. His name doesn't matter. He's 37. From Syria originally, been in the legions 15 years. He watches the Gothic camp through the gathering dusk and tries not to think. But he thinks anyway. He thinks about the woman he saw this morning, digging roots from frozen ground with her bare hands. He thinks about the children who gather at the walls every day, silent, just watching the soldiers eat. He thinks about the men, warriors, definitely warriors, who stand at the edge of the camp and stare at the gate with eyes that remind him of wolves in a trap. His centurion passes by, eyes front, soldier. Sir, how long until the grain shipment? The centurion stops, looks at him. In the torchlight, his face is unreadable. What grain shipment? The soldier feels something cold settle in his stomach. The shipment from the south. To feed them. He nods toward the camp. Sir? The centurion is quiet for a long moment. Then, there is no grain shipment. The local warehouses are nearly empty. Lupicinus is waiting for harvest taxes from the interior. He laughs, but there's no humor in it. You think the empire feeds barbarians for free? They'll work the land, eventually, if they survive the winter. He walks away. The soldier stands at his post and watches the Gothic fires flicker in the darkness. He can hear them now, singing. Not celebration. Something older. Something that sounds like prayer and mourning mixed together. He doesn't know the words, but he understands the tone. Desperate people singing desperate songs. Tomorrow, he tells himself. Tomorrow the food will come. But he's been a soldier long enough to know. Tomorrow is just today with better lighting. And today, 25,000 people are watching. Roman soldiers eat hot food on the walls while their children starve. In the camp, a Gothic woman named no historian will remember tucks her 2 surviving children into a wagon bed and tells them a story about the old country, about rivers that ran with fish and forests full of game, about winters when everyone had enough. Her youngest, 5 years old, maybe 6, looks up at her with eyes too old for his face. Mama, when do we eat? She has no answer, so she keeps telling the story. Behind her, beyond the camp, beyond the river, beyond the smoke of villages she'll never see again, something moves in the darkness. The Huns are still coming, but they're not the threat tonight. Tonight the threat is wearing Roman uniforms and eating roasted boar behind stone walls while her children starve. She finishes the story, kisses their foreheads, stands up and walks toward the edge of camp, where the warriors are gathered around a fire. Speaking in low voices, Fritigern's son is there, back from the banquet, his face carved from stone. What did they offer? Someone asks. Nothing, he says. They offered nothing. And they want our weapons. The men around the fire go still. Someone's hand drifts toward an axe. The woman watches from the shadows. She's just a woman. No one will remember her name. But she remembers what her grandmother told her. Years ago in a different world. When they take your weapons, they've already taken everything else. She turns away, walks back to her children. In the morning, she'll make a decision that changes everything. But tonight, she holds them close and listens to the Roman guards laughing on the walls. Late winter, 377 AD, outside Adrianople. The old woman moves through the Roman market like a ghost. She's been here before, weeks ago, months ago. Time blurs when you're starving, with her granddaughter's husband. They had gold then, real gold, Roman coins, saved for 3 generations. Enough to buy grain for the winter. The merchant took their gold, gave them salted dog meat instead, said it was lamb. The granddaughter's husband died last week, not from the meat, from the wound in his side where a Roman soldier put a spear when he tried to take a loaf of bread that fell from a cart. An accident, the soldier said. He was just protecting the merchandise. The old woman doesn't think about that now. She thinks about the bread. It's on a stall, 20 paces away, fresh, steam still rising from the crust. The merchant is arguing with a Roman officer about prices, waving his hands, not looking at the crowd. She's so thin the wind could knock her over. She hasn't eaten in 5 days. She's been saving what little she finds for the children. 20 paces. She's done this before, in another life. When the Huns came and you took what you could because waiting meant dying. She takes a step. A hand closes on her arm. Hard, young, strong. Don't. It's a Gothic warrior, one of Fritigern's men. She recognizes the scar across his eyebrow. He's not much older than her dead grandson. His eyes are wet. There's a better way, he says. Tonight. Be ready. He lets go, disappears into the crowd. The old woman stands there shaking. The bread is still on the stall. The merchant is still arguing. 20 paces. She turns around and walks back to camp. That night, Fritigern stands before the council of war and does something he never thought he'd do. He tells them the truth. The Romans have made their offer clear. Starvation or surrender. Give them our weapons, our children as hostages, our freedom to kneel and wait for crumbs from their table. He looks at each face around the fire, the war leaders, the elders, the women who've kept the tribe alive through sheer will. I have led you here. I promised safety. I was wrong. An elder starts to speak. Fritigern cuts him off. There is no safety. There is only survival. And survival means... He stops. The word catches in his throat. Survival means we stop waiting to die. Outside the tent, the camp stirs. Word has spread. Warriors check the edges of their axes. Women pack what little they have, not to flee, but to fight. Children too young to understand watch their parents move with a purpose they haven't seen since before the river. A messenger arrives, breath steaming in the cold. His face is pale. Roman soldiers, moving toward the forage parties. They're rounding people up. Fritigern doesn't ask why. He knows why. Lupicinus has finally decided to force the issue. Take hostages. Take weapons. Take control before spring makes the Goths strong enough to resist. He's too late. Call them back, Fritigern says. All of them. Every warrior. Every woman who can hold a spear. Every child who can carry a torch. The messenger hesitates. The forage parties are scattered, miles apart. The Romans will reach them before. Then we make the Romans come to us. 2 miles east, a Gothic forage party is dying. 27 men and women, sent to find anything edible in the frozen countryside, surrounded by 2 centuries of Roman infantry. The Roman commander, a junior tribune named something forgettable, doing something forgettable, on orders he hasn't questioned, shouts for surrender. The Goths don't surrender. They form a circle, backs to each other, axes and knives and farm tools raised. A woman in her 30s, mother of 3, wife of a man who died of fever last month, stands in the front rank. She's holding a scythe. It's not a weapon. It'll do. The tribune sighs. Barbarians, always so dramatic. He gives the order. The Romans advance. Pilums fly. 3 Goths fall. The circle tightens. The woman with the scythe steps forward to meet the first soldier. And behind her, across the frozen field, a horn blows. Not Roman, Gothic, deep, primal, answered by another, closer. Another closer still. The tribune turns. The horizon is moving. Fritigern's warriors pour over the ridge. Like the tide he's only heard. About in stories. Not a formed army, can't be. They've had no training, no supplies. No time, but thousands of them. Screaming, running, axes raised. And in that moment, the tribune understands something his officers never taught him. Desperation is a formation of its own. "Shield wall!" he screams. "Shield wall now!" But his men are already breaking. They're outnumbered 10 to 1. They're cold. They're tired. They've been eating well while these people starved. And somewhere in the back of every Roman soldier's mind is the same thought. If I were them, I'd kill me too. The first Goths hit the line. It doesn't hold. Back at Adrianople, Lupicinus hears the news from a messenger, who rode so hard his horse collapsed at the gate. The man's lips are cracked, bleeding. His eyes don't focus. Ambushed. The forage parties, they used them as bait. Fritigern's warriors came out of nowhere. "We lost." He stops, tries to remember the number. Can't. "We lost." Lupicinus stands at the window of his quarters, looking out at the Gothic camp. It's empty now. Just abandoned shelters and dying fires. They've been moving all night, he realizes. All night, right under his walls, and his sentries saw nothing. How many? The messenger just shakes his head. Lupicinus thinks about the banquet, the offers of peace, the soft hands Fritigern must have noticed. He thinks about the grain shipments he diverted to Roman cities instead of feeding the refugees. He thinks about the merchants he allowed to charge. What they wanted, because barbarians aren't really people, are they? They're just numbers, problems, resources. He thinks about the report he'll have to write. To Emperor Valens, to the man who trusted him to hold this frontier. Outside in the distance, smoke rises. A Roman villa, burning. Then another. Then another. The rebellion has begun. Fritigern stands on a hill and watches his people move past. Warriors now, organized, armed with weapons taken from dead Romans, moving with purpose. But still families, still children carried on shoulders. Still the old and the weak, somehow keeping up. His son appears beside him. "We did it. We broke them." Fritigern doesn't answer. He's looking south, toward the cities, toward the Roman armies that will come now, inevitably in numbers they can't imagine, toward a future that just got much more complicated. "We didn't break them," he says quietly. "We woke them up." His son frowns. "What do you mean?" Fritigern turns to look at the burning villa, at the smoke rising across the countryside, at his people, finally fed on Roman, grain taken by force, moving, like an army for the first time. I mean, they'll send someone now. The emperor himself, maybe, with every legion they can spare. He pauses, and we'll have to kill him. Behind them, the horizon glows with fire. August 9, 378 AD, near Adrianople, Thrace. The heat on the Thracian plain is a living thing. It rises from the dry earth in waves, shimmers against the horizon, turns the air thick as broth. By mid-morning, men are collapsing in their armor. By noon, tongues swell behind teeth. By early afternoon, the Roman army has been marching for 8 hours under full kit, carrying enough supplies to build a fortified camp at the end of the day. A camp they haven't reached. Won't reach, will never reach. Emperor Valens rides at the center of the column, surrounded by his Praetorian Guard. He's 60 years old, has ruled the Eastern Roman Empire for 14 years, has fought Persians and usurpers and survived every plot Constantinople could throw at him. Today, he's going to end this Gothic problem once and for all. The reports have been consistent. Fritigern's army is trapped. Their wagons are circled. Their cavalry is away, foraging or maybe deserting. The scouts say maybe 10,000 Gothic warriors remain, exhausted, starving, pinned against a hill with their families in the center. Valens is impatient. His nephew Gratian, Emperor of the West, is marching to join him with veteran legions from Gaul. If Valens waits, Gratian gets the glory. If Valens attacks now, the victory is his alone. He makes the decision just after noon. We advance. 2 miles away, Fritigern watches the dust cloud of the Roman army grow larger. His warriors crouch behind their wagon circle, waiting. They've been waiting since dawn, waiting in the heat, waiting while their children cry for water, and their women move among them, with nothing to give. His son crouches beside him, eyes on the approaching Romans. They're not stopping to build camp. Fritigern notes. He'd hoped, prayed, that Roman discipline would hold, that Valens would halt, fortify, wait for his nephew, that the day would end without battle, giving Gothic cavalry time to return. But the dust keeps coming. The Romans keep marching. Why? His son whispers. Fritigern thinks about the reports he's carefully fed to Roman scouts. The fake desertions. The hidden cavalry. The image of a trapped, desperate army ripe for slaughter. Because we gave him a story he wanted to believe, Fritigern says. And now he can't see anything else. Behind the Roman column, unseen, dust rises in a different pattern, moving fast, coming from the hills. The Gothic cavalry has returned. The first sign of trouble reaches Valens just as his army completes its approach march. A tribune rides up, face pale beneath the dust and sweat. Majesty, our scouts report movement. In the hills to our left, Valens squints against the glare. He sees nothing, just heat haze and distant slopes. What movement? The tribune hesitates. Horses, Majesty? Many horses. Before Valens can respond, the ground begins to tremble. Not the steady vibration of his own army, something else. Something building, something coming fast. Men turn, officers shout. In the Roman rear, where the veterans should be steady, something is happening. Shouting, screaming, the crash of impact. Then they see them. Gothic cavalry pours over the low hills like water through a broken dam. Thousands of them, Sarmatians, Alans, Goths on horseback, sweeping around the Roman flank, hitting the rear guard before anyone can form a line. The Roman cavalry, caught unprepared, scatters or dies in the first charge. And still the main body marches forward, trying to reach the wagon circle, trying to follow orders that no longer make sense. Valens stares at the chaos unfolding behind him. For the first time in 14 years as emperor, he has no idea what to do. Form a line, someone screams. He doesn't finish. The Gothic cavalry hits again. The battle becomes a slaughter within the first hour. Roman discipline holds just long enough to make the dying harder. Sentries form into shield walls, brace for impact. Watch the horsemen wheel and charge and wheel again, hitting, retreating, hitting somewhere else, never giving the legions a target to hold. The heat kills as many as the Goths. Men in heavy armor collapse and don't rise. Water is gone. Order is gone. Hope is gone. Fritigern watches from the wagon circle, but he's not waiting anymore. His infantry pours out, engaging the Roman front just as the cavalry tears apart their rear. The pincer closes. The Roman army, trapped between the hill and the horsemen, begins to compress in on itself. A Gothic warrior, young, maybe 19, still wearing the Roman tunic he stripped from a dead soldier. Last month finds himself face to face with a Roman standard bearer. The eagle glints in the sun. The bearer is old, 40 at least, with gray in his beard and terror in his eyes. The young Goth swings his axe. The standard falls. Somewhere in the press, Emperor Valens tries to rally his guard. They form a circle around him, the last circle, the final stand, and for a few minutes they hold. Romans dying around their emperor, like they've been trained to do since before this empire was an empire. A Gothic arrow finds a gap in the armor. A soldier falls, another. The circle shrinks. A cavalryman, Gothic, Alan, no one will ever know, crashes through the line. His spear takes a Praetorian in the throat. His horse rears. Valens looks up at the man who will kill him, and in that moment, maybe he thinks about the Danube, about the refugees he let in, about the promises he made and the corruption he ignored. Or maybe he just thinks, I should have waited for Gratian. The spear comes down. By nightfall, the plain is carpeted with the dead. Roman corpses lie in heaps where they fell, still in formation in some places, as if they died standing. 2/3 of the Eastern Field Army, 35,000 men, tribunes, generals, officers of every rank. The elite of the East, destroyed in a single afternoon, and an emperor. Fritigern walks through the carnage as the sun sets, painting everything in shades of red. His son walks beside him silent. They find the body near a burned-out farmhouse, a simple structure, unremarkable, where someone dragged the emperor's corpse trying to hide it. The man who found him, a Gothic warrior with a bloody face, points at the body. Is this him? Fritigern looks down at what remains of Flavius Julius Valens, emperor of the Eastern Roman Empire. The purple robes are torn. The face is unrecognizable. The hands, soft hands, like Lupicinus's hands, like all their hands, are still. Yes, Fritigern says. That's him. His son stares at the body, then at the field, then at his father. What happens now? Fritigern looks up. Beyond the carnage, beyond the smoke, beyond the river they crossed 2 years ago with nothing but hope and hunger. The Roman Empire is still there, bigger than this field, bigger than this defeat, bigger than anything his people can imagine. But tonight, for the first time in their lives, the Goths are not afraid of it. Now, Fritigern says, they know we exist. He turns away from the body. Behind him, his people begin to gather the spoils of the richest army in the world. Ahead of him, the road to Constantinople lies open, but he won't take it. Not tonight, not yet. The empire will need time to understand what happened here. Time to realize that the barbarians aren't just a problem anymore. They're a fact. and nothing will ever be the same. In Rome, the news will take weeks to arrive. When it does, the city will mourn. The Emperor Gratian will choose a successor. The empire will reorganize, rebuild, recruit. But something fundamental has shifted, a crack in the foundation that will never fully seal. The Goths will settle within Roman borders now, not as refugees but as federates. Not begging but bargaining. Fritigan Wildi years later, never quite trusted by his own people or his former enemies, but remembered as the man who proved that emperors bleed. And on the plain outside Adrianople, under the summer stars, the bodies will lie where they fell. Roman and Gothic together, enemies who spent the day killing each other, now indistinguishable in the dark. The wind shifts. The smell of blood and smoke drifts toward the hills. Somewhere in the darkness, a wolf begins to howl. Another answers. The empire doesn't hear them. Not yet, but it will.